Welcome to Random Offense. I am Ethan Strauss. We have a Puka Nacua anchored show for you. We are joined by Ryan Glasspiegel of Front Office Sports, in my opinion, the best sports media reporter out there. And man, do we have a lot to discuss. Let's bring him in. Let's bring Ryan on. Like and subscribe. I'm saying that at the beginning. I forget to say that. Apparently that works on the people, Ryan. Apparently there's a reason YouTubers say to do that. Who knew?
Well, YouTubers. Let's get right into it with the streamers. That's a
Oh.
good segue.
Ooh, look at that segue. Now, I'm going to read something from an account that I would regard as an aggregation slop account. I feel ashamed that I'm cheating off the homework of one Dove Kleiman who posts NFL content, but this is going to be a good way to do the exposition. Puka Nacua, for those of you who do not know, probably the best wide receiver in all of football, wide receiver for the LA Rams. Puka Nacua has had a horrendous week. It's all caps for horrendous. His brother is arrested for allegedly stealing an NBA player's car. Hops on live stream with Aiden Ross one day before he plays the Seahawks and agrees to do an anti-Semitic touchdown dance. Has to apologize for his actions. On stream, criticizes NFL refs, saying they make calls just to tell their friends they were on TV. On stream, says that the Chiefs missed the playoffs because of the Taylor Swift curse. That one doesn't sound too bad. Loses tonight's game against the Seahawks and immediately tweets about how bad the refs were. Deletes his tweets and sends out another apology saying it was lack of awareness. Puka is going down a dangerous path. Emoji with the covering the face. I will say he neglected to mention that he balled out on Thursday Night Football, but we'll get into that. Let's start with the elements. Let's play. And how do I even introduce this right here? Puka Nacua being goaded into doing an anti-Semitic meme dance by live streamer, incidentally, I think a Jewish person, Aiden Ross. Can we play that clip, ladies and gentlemen?
Spin it, flex, then look and go like this. All right. Yes! Yes! Just like a bow, yes, just like this. All right, so do it all in one.
Yo! Spin it. Flex.
Dude! Yes!
In the camera.
He does that? We got you do it?
Yeah.
Whoa!
That's easy.
Oh,
I
that's
like it.
pretty
All right, so let's do it together. Ready? Spin, flex. Oh my God! Dude. You promised.
He locked it. I promise. I got you, man.
Oh my
That's
God.
enough. And the clip. I'm too offended. Incidentally, I'm ashamed to say that whenever I get notified of a new subscription for my Substack, that is the dance that I do. That is what I do to celebrate the cha-ching into my wallet. Yeah, Ryan.
Okay, so it would imagine if we like lived in a world where that he did that on the stream, but it didn't get clipped and go viral before the game. And then Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime, NFC West at stake, maybe the 1 seed at stake. Puka Nacua catches a touchdown pass from Matt Stafford and immediately hits 15 million viewers with the covetous Jew.
He could have done it on what we thought was the game-winning overtime touchdown to effectively secure the 1 seed. And then what would have happened? I don't.
I know.
Happened
we're like the last two people who probably should think this is funny.
I don't know.
But imagine how funny it would have been if
that's the thing. The thing with bigotry, racism, these things that's hard to talk about is that sometimes it's so stupid it's funny. And you don't want people having some of these thoughts and opinions, or maybe normalizing these thoughts and opinions. But it's so absurd that there's a meme of just a Hasidic Jewish looking guy rubbing his hands together and looking all gross, and that this is known and this becomes, it's just ridiculous. It's
there is kind of a cycle that I've seen happen, I don't know, half dozen times or more with like athletes or rappers where they say that Jews are good at getting money and they mean it just completely as a compliment. They're like, oh my God, they're so good at business. And then they just get very sternly admonished because no, that makes people think that they run the world, and then that leads to backlash, and then
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
killed. And part of that's true, but
We
like it's
don't run the
very
world,
like
and we are forcing you to apologize right now, or we will take everything from you. No, it's
right. Yeah, we've talked about this before, but
yeah.
like this is kind of like a first cousin of that, right?
Yeah, it is. And I've experienced this in person. I've been in the locker room covering the NBA and been around these sorts of conversations where the players they're going, "Oh, I know how you guys are and I want to get on your guys' level." And it's this sort of philo-Semitic anti-Semitism, maybe. And I don't know how they knew to ask me. Maybe it's because I was in the corner of the locker room rubbing my hands together. I had a good story. I had a good topic. I
Anticipating
don't know.
future House of Strauss subscribers, no
They
doubt.
just they just knew somehow. They somehow knew. And yeah, it's just a kind of conversation that you're not going to have in much of professional class life. And in this instance, I don't know what Puka Nacua knew. I saw people admonishing him and being angry towards him and going, "Oh my God, what an idiot." But yet they want this guy who is just a bowling ball going headfirst into contact, the toughest wide receiver. So we're selecting for somebody who does something violent that we like, and then there's this additional expectation that they perform the societal functions that we might want, I don't know, a university administrator to perform. And it just doesn't work that way. And frankly, I'm just not that worried about this sort of thing. I mean, I almost feel like we take some of this cultural energy and these real threats to people in Jewish institutions. And something I've experienced just sending my kid to Jewish day school, my older kid, a major difference that I noticed because the older kid went to Jewish day school next to a temple. The younger kid, actually, for convenience, went to a Christian preschool, not overtly Christian, Lutheran. They don't really front load the whole religiosity, but just the amount of security in what I sent the older kid to versus the younger kid, it's staggering. But let's face it, the security threats that Jewish people are under right now across the West in a situation like Bondi Beach, I don't think it has much of a connection to the shit posting and Puka Nacua doing this. I just feel like we're
Correct.
almost focusing on this because it's too uncomfortable to have a conversation about the rift between Islam and Judaism and Israel and everything else. It's just easier to yell at Puka Nacua.
Yeah. There's not like much to add to that. It's just, I do think that we as like Jewish people, and I don't want to like anoint myself the spokesperson for like the global Jewry,
Okay,
but
I'm fine with it.
uh,
Ryan
there's
is the Pope of the Jews for this
some of
particular
these
episode.
things, when they're silly and it's almost clear that there's no ill intent, we should let them go because and like save the energy for real threats because there are real threats. And if you always have like a megaphone, you're not gonna have, if you're always yelling, then you're never yelling, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so it's a I'm inclined to give him a pass on this,
yeah.
even before he apologized, which I don't know. I still kind of go back to wishing we could have lived in a double blind experiment where he did it in the game. But
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely, if we lived in a Groundhog Day reality where we could see it once and then replay the day and not have it happen, I think if you give me the ability to push a button to make it happen, I would not push that button. I'd be tempted to push that button to just see it, but it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate. That's all I would say. It's inappropriate, just like if somebody did some sort of act of nudity on Thursday Night Football. It's not really appropriate. I don't
I'm
look at it
sorry
as,
viewers had to see that. That was
yeah,
disgusting.
yeah. I mean, I don't see it as connected to the broader danger in the world. Anthony Mays says that Puka, despite being the best wide receiver in football, only making $1.1 million this year.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
who's
wide
responsible
receivers
for
at
that?
Ohio State are making more than that.
Yeah, and who's responsible for that? We have to ask some questions about all of this. We got more Puka content though. More Puka content. Fascinated by his star turn. The refs also a focus of Puka and one that is more authored by him as opposed to getting goaded into it by an engagement seeking live streamer. Let's watch that clip. I need Puka referee commentary.
Bullshitting sometimes.
Oh, 100%. I'm like, they had yes, the refs are the worst because they're just, some of the rules aren't, and like these guys are lawyers and like they want to be on TV too, bro. Like the game is, you don't think he's texting his friends in the group chat like, yo, you guys just saw me Sunday Night Football? Like that was
no way.
Like that wasn't PI, like, but I called it. I was like,
Seriously, they do that?
I mean, these guys are normal human beings too, bro. Like these
I
guys
mean,
aren't
they
just
do a
like,
better job than them.
Dude, am I even joking?
They're
Yes.
fucked, bro.
They
They
do.
kill the
They're,
game.
they're cheaters, bro. I don't care.
Oh my God. I feel like I'm getting dumber watching it. No offense. No offense. No offense. I mean, these guys are
Random
great at something.
offense.
I mean, Aiden Ross, he's a very popular live streamer. Based on the content I've seen, I'm sure he's good at things and smart about things that I don't understand that have made him become popular. But I think one of the reasons why you see these athletes hopping on these live streams and then people more like us, effete nerds, will be complaining about them going on these live streams, questioning why, is that these guys are kind of on their level. There's a bro authenticity and they're just talking like regular people. And that's why it all connects. But yeah, I don't think that's why the refs are doing things. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I will confess that in the 30 seconds leading up to going live today, I had to Google who is Aiden Ross. Because look, have I seen his name on Twitter a bunch of times and just like kind of ambiently passed it without bothering to like discover who he is? Hand up, yes. Did I know like what he's internet famous for? Hand up, no. Uh, and part of me is like a little bit jealous that he can get the odds-on favorite for offensive player of the year like have that guy think, oh, this guy Aiden Ross is like a big star and I'm gonna go on his show and loosen up. I'm having like a hard time envisioning like a scenario where I'd be able to get one of these like really top tier NFL, NBA, or MLB players to just like
I
feel
could
like,
see you getting a thinky O lineman. I could see that happening. I could see.
look, I could have like a sit down interview with them, but I don't think I could like be standing with
Couldn't bro out.
maybe if we're like at a grill and he's got like, burgers, brats, like just, making the charcoal.
We're not cool, Ryan. That's the problem. We're not cool. And I think some of this content operates on a level that is just not for us. And I saw a lot of people reacting to these athletes going on Aiden Ross's stream because he's a Gen Z guy, this Aiden Ross. He did a thing with Trump. And so I see these reactions of, oh my God, Mookie Betts, he's with this right winger. And Puka Nacua is with this right winger. And I'm looking at it, and based on what I've seen, I don't think these guys are thinking about politics that much. I don't think Aiden Ross is thinking about politics that much. It just lives in this kind of Zoomer content engagement world that's very difficult for we millennial dorks to even understand.
Although a counterpoint to that is that this week, Mike Francesa said that two big Mets stars had a falling out in the locker room because one was pro-Trump and one was anti. So maybe they are talking about it a little bit. But
I mean, player who's anti-Trump. Like what sort of? It has to be a left-handed pitcher, I think.
No, I don't remember which two he was talking about. Mays, look it up. It definitely got clipped this week on Twitter. But going back to like what you said about this idea that young athletes are cavorting with the right wing. I hate to show you polling about 25 and under men because they are leaning Republican, and so it is like this idea that like any one of them is going to be shamed for hanging out with someone with right-wing views. I think that might be like an anachronistic thing from the last decade. I don't think you're going to get these guys on that and make them feel any type of like shame about it because I think that that's the norm with them.
I agree with all that. I also don't necessarily think that politics is as cut and dried to that generation, or they think about it in the ways we think about it. Tom P asks, LOL, why a left-handed pitcher? I'm just thinking about selection pressures where you wouldn't have to be culturally completely enmeshed in the sport, but you're so in demand as somebody with a lefty arm that you just have to be in the
It
sport.
was definitely two position players and they were stars.
Wow. Do we
But
know who? Can we get
I
a
do know
report on
who.
this? Hmm. That's interesting. I should have mentioned that Puka didn't just stop with the ref commentary. As mentioned earlier,
Yes.
immediately after the game, he appeared to blame the refs for what happened, which to me, as somebody who watched the game, I don't think the refs screwed the Rams. I didn't see any evidence of that in that collapse that the Rams had. I didn't see any real. People thought the 2-point conversion call was weird, but everybody agrees that was the correct call. So, Puka Nacua, you're an amazing wide receiver. You had an incredible game, but I think you're wrong, sir. I think you're incorrect there.
I found it. It was Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor.
Huh.
Francesca did not say which one was pro-Trump and which one was anti-Trump. So put your
What?
speculation hats on and try and think about it.
I thought Nimmo was pro Trump. I don't know why that's in my head. I don't know why I believe that. And Lindor is from another country. I don't know what's going on. Look, let's play a clip. Let's like because we're not done with this. I want the Sean McVay reaction, and we can get into some sports reporter media commentary because people are asking us. They're mad that the media was asking so many questions of McVay after this historic Thursday night football crushing defeat about the aforementioned Puka Nacua and all of his goings on. So can we play McVay?
Kind of taking like a veiled shot there at the refs. I mean,
What are you talking about?
you just put something on Twitter a couple minutes ago.
So what are you asking me right now?
Are you okay
I can't
with that?
answer questions about something that I'm not aware of.
Okay, but are you okay with players kind of expressing frustration over things like that? Or is that something that you hope that they kind of keep to themselves? And
I got to have more information before I answer any of those kind of questions.
What conversations have you had with
Yeah. At some point, and we don't have it in the clip, he was asked about the distractions that Puka Nacua was bringing, and McVay said he balled out or something
Yeah,
like
he had
that.
over 200 yards receiving when they're keyed in on him, and now he's the odds-on favorite for offensive player of the year. Like, we should all be distracting our teams like that.
He's also the offensive player of the year, but I
See what you did there.
Yeah, I mean, he's incredible. He's like a mix of he's like Terrell Owens with Marvin Harrison's hands.
It
And
It is crazy. I mean, like with Devontae Adams out, it means that they are really fixated. Like, we gotta stop Puka. That's the game plan.
yeah,
It's not like, I mean, like if you double him, then all of a sudden Adams, one of like the greatest receivers in recent memory, then you've got one man on him. Like that, their other receivers were like Xavier Smith and like Kanata Mumpfield yesterday. Were not like household names, but. Um, as far as like the McVay press conference, now I don't know about 20 years ago. I feel like much more of the questions would have been about the games. Your role as a sports writer there was to like service like the newspaper readers that you already had. And with just the advent of the internet, and everyone is so aware of how many clicks what they write gets, um you just know that there's a lot more web audience to be had fixating on these like Nakua quote unquote controversies and less on this is what happened in the football game 12 hours ago.
yeah. And nobody's in charge of the scale of what's going to be asked about in a press conference. And I can speak to that. It's not like the reporters get together and they go, okay, so we need about 20% of these kinds of questions and 30% of these kind of questions. And maybe at the end, we'll do a little Puka Nacua, what the hell's going on? he's getting kind of weird. He's sort of becoming a diva. I don't know. It's just everybody goes with whatever the most interesting question in their head is. And it is strange not to focus on that game because that was a classic. That's perhaps the most memorable game of the NFL season. But yet there's this weirdness. We've seen wide receivers spiral out before, and I don't know. I don't know anything about the personality of Nacua. He seems like a bit of a meathead, and he seems fairly unrestrained, and he's feeling himself. He's unstoppable, and I just don't know. I don't know why I'd bring it to McVay. If I was McVay, I don't think he handled it poorly, but if I was McVay, I'd just go, look, this guy's an
You
incredible
gotta
player.
remember, and like McVay is on short rest this week. His wife delivered their second
Mm,
baby a few days ago, and you put yourself, for those of us who have like been in those shoes, you're not yourself. I think like in a normal week, he would have just like he has this, computer processing mind, and he would have figured out a way to swat it earlier, but you combine the fact that they just had a baby. They lost a massive division game in which they were, 97% favored to win at one point, and then were also ahead by a touchdown in overtime. And so throw all those things together, on the road in Seattle, which is a very difficult environment. It's as loud as anywhere in sports. Uh,
Wait, you think that had an impact? The noise, the cumulative noise, that's what put McVay over the top and got him snappy with a reporter? I don't know. I don't know.
the just all that stuff together, he would have been like, we're gonna have a talk with Tutu about social media, and we're gonna keep that in house. Next
Yeah.
question. Well, what about this? I just said we're gonna keep that in house. If anybody has any football questions, I'm happy to answer, but I'm not giving you anything else on this.
Yeah. He kind of did that, but he got snappy, he got angry, and it's fine. I think we'll all move on, but you can't do anything. When people are great, you can't do much. Puka could do anything, and McVay needs him out there, and that gives him leverage. And so what are you gonna do? There's just not much McVay can do, even if you're looking for some authority to get a handle on this guy. This guy who's just creating controversy after controversy all of a sudden. By the way, you can ask questions, you can call in. I sometimes forget to tell people that. But are we done with Puka? Do you have any other Puka thoughts, Ryan?
No,
Or are we
we've
moving on?
exhausted that well.
Okay, okay. Well, from Jewish controversy to Jewish man, we've got Adam Silver over here taking veiled shots at ESPN while talking and just really bestowing compliment after compliment on the ballyhooed Amazon NBA broadcast. Let's play that clip. And actually, we need a verdict on this. Is he taking a shot? Is this a shot? Some would say it's overstated. Let's watch.
Of course, I've been watching it. By the way, in all honesty, I love the chemistry of you guys. I mean, obviously why you did so well in a team sport.
Aw.
I mean, the chemistry is fantastic. And I also just say quickly, as a fan, I think you do a great job educating, other fans about the game, because that, I would say, has frustrated me in the past about some coverage when it's sort of reduced to one side wanted it more, or this side played harder. And when you guys are explaining, like, why can't a guy get a shot off? Why is a particular defense working? I think the studio you guys built is off the charts, and I think the technology you're using, and when you guys go out on the floor and demonstrate things, I can say as a fan, I love that part of the coverage.
Sincere. It's kind of sweet. I don't think he's BSing, folks. I think he's legitimately happy with the Amazon production of the NBA right there. Some would say it was a shot at ESPN. I see in the comments from Teutonia World that it sounds like a TNT shot. I'll say it's a shot. It sounds like a compliment, but I've known enough and heard enough about Adam Silver that he's been incredibly frustrated with the negativity of coverage. And not just TNT. He's also pissed off about how ESPN broadcasts the game. What do you think of that, Ryan?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of veiled shots at ESPN and TNT. And, if it was a veiled shot at TNT, then it's a veiled shot at ESPN because ESPN is licensing that TNT show now. But it's two parts. So he has been for a while, he's not a guy who bangs pots and pans, but in his own way, asking for more X's and O's talk on NBA coverage. You watch NFL Live and you see Dan Orlovsky up there with a telestrator and breaking down film, and that just isn't an element that we've seen a lot of on televised NBA coverage from league partners in recent memory. Now, maybe you could point out, okay, Tim Legler does this then or whatever, but it's much more common when you're watching NFL programming to get that type of coverage than when you're watching the NBA. I think everybody understands that. The like that's why he's happy with Amazon, and like he wanted this new era, like starting with this new TV deal, to be much more NBA positive, less about, hey, this product stinks, the players load manage, they shoot too many threes, they're divas, all that stuff that like Barkley and Shaq and Stephen A talk about.
Barkley was dumping on the NBA Cup still. He was. And I saw these people, these NBA fans ripping on Barkley, but it's what I value about him is he's not going to lie.
He's
You know
going
what,
to tell you what he thinks.
You know what Adam Silver reminds me of? He reminds me of me yesterday. I had an iPad that I needed to get working for my kid, and the internet just wasn't working. And I don't know why the internet wasn't working. And I'm just trying these different things without any sort of mechanical or inherent knowledge of just how to get this thing working. Maybe I do this. Maybe it requires that. Maybe I turn it on and I turn it off again. Or maybe I do that with the router. Or maybe it's a proxy thing. Blah, 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 blah. That's what I feel like with Adam Silver. He doesn't know why people like the sport. He doesn't know what would get more people to like the sport. And so it's this, oh, well, maybe they just need to be, the broadcasting needs to be different. And maybe that's what makes the NFL so popular, is that you've got Orlovsky and you've got people breaking down the X's and O's. And maybe what we need is like a soccer style tournament, because like they have those cups for soccer. Maybe that's what's going to get people into it. I don't think it has much to do with the issue. I don't think the broadcasting is why people have dropped off from the NBA. I think one of the reasons the broadcast got more negative was just an organic reaction to the product getting less compelling as teams cared less about the regular season. So I like good quality broadcasting. I like Tim Legler. I like a lot of what Amazon does. They got something good right there with Dirk Nowitzki. I don't really think that's going to change what's happening or move the needle, though. And that brings us to our next question from one of our viewers, which is, does the NBA Cup, which wrapped up and had a good couple games in conclusion, does it have legs? Is this going to be something in perpetuity that we care about?
I mean, I don't know. It does seem like the semis and the finals, once it gets to that level, are pretty good, but like the whole lead up to it is very confusing. The courts are very ugly. It doesn't seem like most teams take it that much more seriously. There's this whole like, should we raise a banner or not, which is like kind of makes the whole thing seem laughable. So it's it's a I think it's like a good idea, but they still got to figure out a way for it to have even more stakes. Like the back end of the bench getting this like meaningful pay bump isn't quite enough.
There's been this controversy over whether the Knicks are going to raise the banner, and I'm still not entirely sure what they're going to do. I think it'd be funny if Dolan effectively took a dump on what Adam Silver loves, even though the Knicks won, just because he hates Adam Silver so much. James Dolan, owner of the Knicks. And here's what I'll say about the NBA Cup. Seems like it was hot in the streets. Out in real life, I heard people talking about it. Focus group, anecdotal. But at the same time, I'm very skeptical when I get these arguments from people that we're just going to continue to care about it. My friend Amin El Hassan has said, oh, well, in 10 to 15 years, we're going to care about it because it's an established tradition and your kids will like it. Maybe, but I'm skeptical.
He can feel free to bet me on my kids.
Well, your kids, I mean, you've got daughters. It's slightly different, not to be a stereotyper, but I don't know. I ran into this problem with the NBA Cup and my kid. Again, anecdotes, sample size of one here. He asked me why it matters if you win it. I couldn't give him an answer. I just couldn't. I didn't know what the answer was. They came up with this. It's middle of the season. Well, does it mean you're the best team? He asked me. Does it mean you're the best team, Dad? No, it doesn't seem to mean you're the best team. I couldn't explain it. And one of the reasons why these soccer tournaments work, where they have these weird tournaments, is because it's been going on so long that it gives it a cachet. I think it's extraordinarily difficult in a world with so much social media noise and all these entities competing for our attention to just create a new arbitrary tradition and not give us any sense of meaning as to why it matters. I'm not long on the NBA Cup, even if I will concede it was a good NBA Cup.
Yeah, I mean, what can they do though? How can they juice up these regular season games other than making it from going from like 82 to like 50 of them?
More nerdy analysis, more X's and O's. Teutonio World has his hand up. He might have a cup take. I don't know. We'll see. How you doing, man?
What's going on? So I've thought for a long time, well, not a long time, once a year. Back in the day, they'd have the dunk contest and three-point contest, and the guy from Gillette or whatever the sponsor would come out and say, on top of that, here's $100,000 for the United Negro College Fund or whatever they had going. And I always thought that if it was a Steph Curry or some rich player, that there's zero downside at that point to be like, you know what, and I'm personally matching it just right on the spot. Like it'd be the biggest PR. It'd be worth like $100 million worth of PR versus, 50,000 or 500,000, whatever. This kind of dovetails, I think, with the gambling conversations. At this point, don't they just have to start paying off fans to care about these events? So how about $1 million for the fan of the Knicks, or $100,000 over the course of 10 fans? Or that would, like, we get a little bit of run on like the 10th player is making a lot more money. I know for the Bucks, like Bobby Portis seemed like he wanted to start a fight in the locker room when he didn't win it, because we know that the players care about the money a little bit. Is the future of sports that we start paying off fans to care about it? And hey, if my team makes the NBA Cup, are we headed toward the Hunger Games of just paying us the money that we put in back, like for one person to pay? I'm not articulating it well, but no. I do think that if you had $1 million, that would have some cash payout, would have some sort of effect on us caring, because we don't care.
I mean, this is a great idea. And if we talk about what people are into, what the kids are into, what they focus on, they love this Mr. Beast stuff. They love contests. Yep. My kid says challenges. They love all that stuff. And there's something fiendish about it and perhaps perverse about it. But if you took 10 fans to divide the $1 million pot, and we had the camera on those 10 selected fans, and then the 10 selected Spurs fans on the other side, and you're watching their reactions, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, of who's going to get the money, who's going to get the prize. You could say it's cruel and unfair that the losing fans lose out on it, but I'd watch. Ryan, would you watch?
That'd be interesting, yeah.
And then the losing fans go on the local news and talk about how, and then people complain about the officiating. To game this up, I mean, we've talked so much about like the distance from the fan. People feel like, again, I don't feel like people should be cruel or use profanity, but you can't cheer the same kind of way. We're distance from these billionaire athletes. I do think sports leagues at a certain point will add more of a reality TV aspect to it, where one lucky fan can ... And that'd be one way to make. I would watch that. I didn't watch this year.
It's clearly a good idea. From my perspective, the only reason I haven't heard it, I think, or the main reason, is that they're in such a mode of mentality of extracting money out of the fans. I've called it fracking the pie, where they're not making new fans, so they look deeper and deeper into the pockets of these fans. that nobody's raising their hand and going, well, what about doing just a larger scale version of what they've done at these arenas where if somebody makes a half court shot, they win $10,000. What about that? To me, especially if the setting is going to be in Las Vegas, which I suppose it isn't, because in his forever quest to find some sort of way to, I don't know, astroturf interest in the league, Silver wants the NBA Cup games in these historic college venues like Cameron Indoor. But if it was in Vegas, then that adds a Vegas-y element that you go to Vegas as a fan of your team and oh my God, your life has changed because your team won. I'm all for it. I love this idea. World Cup tickets and the surrounding crying about prices, capitalism, folks. I'm just reading the chat, trying to figure out. Yeah, I mean, I'm into it. It's not my money. It's easy for me to say, but do something with it all. All right. Well, thanks to Tonia. That's a good idea. You've saved the NBA yet again. I appreciate that from you. Okay. Ryan, let's get into your expertise here. We need you to explain the business and content world. Can you do that for us? Can you do
Yes.
this for us? Can you explain how and why what superficially to me just seems like a waste of money, perhaps, or the wrong idea, perhaps, this Netflix acquiring, pardon my take, off of Barstool and all these other podcasts that we associate with YouTube and bringing them into Netflix. What the hell is happening here? What's going on?
So, yeah, this week, Netflix announced a new deal with Barstool to do the exclusive video streaming rights of Pardon My Take, the Ryan Russillo Show, and Spittin' Chicklets, which is their hockey podcast. And these are three of Barstool's most popular podcasts, three of the most popular sports podcasts, period. And this comes after they did deals with iHeart that included like the Breakfast Club, which I mean, for sports people don't really care about, but it's big in the entertainment space. There were some volume podcasts, including friend of the show, John Middlecoff's, that was included in that iHeart deal. And then they also did one with Ringer Spotify that included the Bill Simmons podcast. And so I reported yesterday that Netflix paid 8 figures per year for these three Barstool pods, including a multi-year deal. So these podcasts are still going to be available on Apple and Spotify. And so it's it's just the video component. And there's like the question of, is this actually going to work? And that's why the creators are getting a lot of upfront money, because they know that this is going to cannibalize their audience at the very least in the short term. And I mean, probably 90 million in US and Canada have Netflix, and maybe even a lot more than that when you include people who use shared passwords. But it's not YouTube, which literally every man, woman, and child uses. And I don't know if people are going to watch these on Netflix or not. I don't know, but 5 years ago, would you have thought that this is how people would be consuming Simmons or Pardon My Take? Like, those are audio native shows, and I wouldn't have known that it was going to like become a big YouTube audience for them.
Well, but I would say that it's easy. And that's one of the reasons why it's worked. It's easy. It's easy to go to YouTube for some of these big shows. And how does Netflix make it easy? How do they make it easier? That I don't know. Where's the what piece of the puzzle? How does that piece of the puzzle get slotted in there?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that real quick?
Well, I think one of the reasons why the YouTube has worked, is because it's easy.
Yes.
But how does Netflix make it easy? Netflix.
Okay, so yes, the thing about YouTube is it is very easy. You just pull it up on your app on your phone. You don't have to log in, or you say it into the remote of your like TV controller, and you put it on in the ambient background instead of ESPN. The other factor is the discoverability, like because when you watch one video, it starts
Yes.
another one immediately based on what you like. So you may not have been intending to watch Pardon My Take or intending to watch Bill Simmons and Cousin Sal, but you are watching something else. Now this pops up and you're not leaving because you're like, oh, I'm glad they're showing me this. I missed this before and now I get to see this clip or this whole show. And, Netflix has that too, though. Netflix has this algorithm on the home screen that
Yeah.
when my
You
wife
watched
logs
the
in on her,
quarterback
you
series,
make your
maybe.
own
Yeah.
profile within your house. It's so like you pull up Netflix and it's like Ryan, Carla, Frankie, like my kid has a Netflix account in it. So, and then it's going to show you a different home screen based on what you've watched before and what they expect you to watch now. Like if you go into Netflix and you don't know what you want to watch, it can be really like be you scrolling like a half hour until you find it. But I guess what they're hoping is that there's diehard fans of these podcasts that have grown used to watching it on their TV or on their phone in transit, like if they're on a train or something like that. Or, probably people pull up YouTube and put on Pardon My Take in their car and just listen to it instead of going and finding it through Apple and Spotify. And Netflix is going to have to figure a way to habitualize that. It's like, they could be shoveling money into a fire, or they could be giving somebody who is already a subscriber a new value proposition for why they don't cancel. I mean, it's why they play the games.
Yeah, and what Pardon My Take has going for it is those guys are very consistent. That's one of the reasons they've cited as why they've had such a loyal audience is that they make a lot of content. They're always there on time. And so I think that's an advantage. And I think some of it's just going to come down to how easy do they make it? How easy do they make it for me to interface with Netflix as an audio product, perhaps? That doesn't sound natural. In theory, they could make it happen. Christopher Azili has his hand up. I can't see him, but he wants to ask something. Or Ezel, sorry, I pronounced it. I went back to Festus Azili. Sorry, old habits. The former backup center of the Warriors.
Yeah,
What you got? What you got for us, Christopher?
thanks, guys. Well, one, Ryan acknowledges something that nobody else does, and I wonder why this is. For people below the age of 40, Bill Simmons is not the number one sports columnist or commentator in America. It's been Big Cat, and it's been Big Cat for at least 7 years. Why would legacy media not acknowledge this in the way that, is it just because most current media grew up reading Bill Simmons or listening to Bill Simmons? Big Cat's way bigger and nobody will ever acknowledge it. And it's ridiculous. No, there's no major media profiles of him. The podcast has been bigger than Simmons for more than 5 years, but there's no profiles of Big Cat. We actually know nothing about his private life. Bill Simmons, we know he's worth $100 million or however much more he made from The Ringer, but he has not been. I mean, and you can tell his podcast is dying. I mean, the second question is, when is it time for a podcast to die?
No, it's not dying. Are you on a train?
I am on a train.
It's beautiful,
Okay.
the background.
So Simmons came, I mean, I guess Big Cat also did come up as a writer, but a lot of people became familiar with Simmons through his writing, and he talked a lot about himself. You remember, like, there was a while where, like, the sports gal had like a mini column within his column, and then she stopped doing it, like, out of spite because, like, they wouldn't comp like Disney World passes or something like that. But like, Big Cat is like very, he says he has kids, but he really never mentions his wife almost. And I mean, he doesn't grant a lot of outside interviews. So I think, like, it's really, I think that most people recognize how big Pardon My Take is. I don't think there's some contingent who thinks that it's like not a juggernaut, right? But
Yeah,
yes,
I will say I've tried to get Big Cat on House of Strauss. He has nearly done it. He said that he believes in doing in-person interviews. That was a few years ago. And I want to get him on. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I also know personal details about him because of that weird Barstool universe of kayfabe where I can't tell if they're really slandering each other or not. When he was exposed for having been a Patriots fan, Massachusetts guy who had then become a Bears Chicago guy, and that was a whole thing. So I think one of the answers to your question, though, Christopher, and as an aside, I think it's funny that I'm wondering and worrying about how is Netflix going to possibly make it easy and habituate people to podcasts on Netflix, and we're talking to a guy on a train. I think maybe it's feasible. I think that a lot of it's that legacy is dying. Like that's it, what it is. It's like there's not a legacy media. There aren't big New Yorker profiles. When they do happen, they're few and far between. So I think one of the reasons why Bill Simmons has more prestige focus is because he came up at a point where these publications still mattered. And what aspects of them continue to matter residually are going to be more aware of him. But there isn't necessarily that star making, star coordinating apparatus that currently exists. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think those are all good points, but I think, if Big Cat and Bill Simmons were walking side by side through New York City, more people would recognize Big Cat at this point.
That's a great hypothetical. I don't know how to answer that hypothetical. I'm not sure. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know. I think I'll go back and forth on that one. Should we talk about the gambling company DraftKings getting soaked with a glitch? Should we talk about that?
Let's talk about that. It's interesting to me.
Okay. Let's throw that element up. Ryan's got to do some reporting soon, so we gotta end on the dot, end on the button. We got to be aware of that.
Kings to make their statement or their case on this. It's a pretty rough one.
Actually, you know what? This is boring. Let's get rid of him and have Ryan describe it.
I can explain this guy's case.
What was that, Ryan?
I said I can explain this guy's case.
Yes, please do.
All right. So there was a bettor who, during the baseball playoffs, figured out a glitch on DraftKings. So he was betting on like a player to get 8 hits in a MLB playoff series, and he realized that if he parlayed the player to get 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 hits, it kept juicing the odds, and it made it a higher paying bet than him to just get 8 hits. And so this guy loaded up his account and basically made like 27 different bets along these lines. Like once DraftKings said that you're limited, you can't bet this anymore, he just started parlaying that with like a high minus money line. So for example, like this isn't what he did, but like, Anthony Joshua is a minus 800 to minus 1200 favorite tonight to beat Jake Paul. He would parlay this hits parlay with that to get more money down. And they also suspected him of having a family member do the scheme in New Jersey. So all told, I think that he wound up winning like $1.7 million on these bets. DraftKings tried to not pay him because they said that he was like exploiting an obvious glitch. And the Massachusetts Gaming Board said, you have to pay. Before I give my thoughts on all this, what was your thoughts when you heard all this?
Sweet justice was my thoughts on all of this because, exploiting a glitch. They've been exploiting a glitch in the human psyche that thinks that, what is it called? Conjoined bets, that they're more probable than they are. To give an example, right now, Niners fans are all ecstatic because if the team wins out, they're going to be the number 1 seed. And they'll probably be favored in the 3 remaining games that they would need to win out. But when you combine 3 values where even it's probable that you'll win, it's improbable, probably around 20% chance or so that the Niners are actually going to pull it off. And it just doesn't intuitively feel that way to us. So this is how these companies have made money. And I'm not saying they've done it illegally or anything like that, but they've been exploiting a glitch. They've been exploiting a fallacy, and they screwed up. They left themselves vulnerable. And we know damn well that We know damn well that if he had lost the bet that he had made when
Yes.
trying to exploit that glitch, they would not have returned the money to him. We know
Right.
that much. I'm pretty confident there.
Yeah, so he was taking a risk, and that differentiates this from some other glitches that they've had where like sometimes they have a glitch where it's impossible for you to lose. Like if you're live betting something that has like already come through or something like that. So there's a difference there. It is a tricky one for me because if gamblers are allowed to just wantonly exploit glitches and clearly terrible lines like this one, then it's going to make it so that books can just like offer much fewer markets.
Mm.
Like you can like imagine a scenario where they get taken for a lot more than $1.7 million, like in a situation like this. And if they have unlimited liability, then they're going to like take away a lot of these like exotic markets that I enjoy betting on, and I don't want that to happen. So that's one hand, but there is something like, okay, well, you don't like it when the rabbit had the gun
Yeah.
because they know people who like the books. I'm not just singling out DraftKings here, but the books know who is good and they limit you, me, and make it so that you just can't beat them anymore. The books also know who is bad, who is just like a chronic loser at gambling, and then they offer them perks like deposit bonuses and extra boosts on your bet and virtually no limits, and even like they'll glad hand you in person and give you good tickets to games and events and things like that, and presents. They have hosts that will buddy you to try get you to deposit more and lose more. And so you think like the tweet that I sent Ethan about this was someone said no crying at the casino should include the casino itself. Now that
Yeah.
phrase, no crying at the casino, is one I kind of believe in. It's like, look, if you're gambling and you lose, you lost. You like
Mm.
you can't cry about it. Like this
Yeah.
is what like. I believe in personal responsibility, even in the face of addictions and whatnot. Like you at some point you have to leave people to their own devices. Like, there's lots of different things that the people who abuse them are. It's very problematic, but we don't like restrict the rest of society from it. So I can kind of see like all sides of this situation in DraftKings. I know that's like what they tell opinionists like ourselves not to do, which is you're supposed to take a side and fight on it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've just gone around in circles, and I haven't really come
Well, I
to
think
any.
they screwed up. You know, if I screwed up and selected the wrong guy to bet on, then there's still a situation where my money's at risk.
Yeah, or
They
you
screwed
bet
up.
1,000 by accident instead of 100. Like they don't let you out of that.
No, they don't
Um,
like, excuse me, sports book. Excuse me. I didn't mean to bet 1,000 on this. They don't let you do that. So I'm glad that they're being forced to
Someone
play
who
fair.
tracks this type of stuff carefully told me about this when it first went down. And apparently, like what was novel about this story is that the state gaming boards almost always side with the sports books. And that's what's like
Mm.
kind of interesting about this was they like actually sided with the consumer. It's a little bit of like a dirty secret where the gaming boards and the sports books are more partners than the government is with the consumer because the sports books are the ones who deliver those tax dollars that they're addicted to spending, and so they kind of like work as like a hand in hand cartel, and usually like the protagonist who exploits the glitch winds up not getting his money.
Yeah, maybe it's good for them. Maybe it lets more people think that there's a chance at winning big. Maybe it's not the worst outcome, even though it's a bit of an
Eh,
expensive
I
one.
mean, this better is sophisticated. I'll say that. This isn't somebody who that this is someone who looks for these things. So
Yeah. Okay, last topic, and maybe I'll throw this at you. You've got reporting to do. You're multitasking right now. You're under pressure. You have trepidation about discussing this topic. I know that from our personal conversations. The viral
oh
Compact
yeah.
article on millennial white men having been boxed out of institutions during the Great Awakening in the arts and entertainment and academia and Hollywood. You told me that you were worried, you had trepidation about discussing that, but thought it perhaps a proper topic. Why so scared? Has there not been a vibe shift, Ryan?
There has been, but it's like, I don't want to say, oh, yeah, there were times where I was up for a job and I didn't get it and I was discriminated against and have that get like clipped and say, like, oh,
An
Glass,
awful
so
announcing.
bitter. I mean, like they worked out for it's like the
Ryan Glasspiegel says I was targeted because I'm a white man. You don't want that headline on awful announcing. That's what
right.
you're saying.
Look, like two things can be true. There were times where I felt like I was targeted, and then I don't want a headline of me saying that. But it happened. But here's like what my issue was with the story. I don't think it only happened to millennials. I think it happened, look, at the very tip top, the boomers like in the C-suite, maybe it didn't happen to them as much, but I think it happened to people who were already like quote unquote established. I mean, you go back to the first round of those ESPN layoffs when they saw that cord cutting was coming and it was 2015 and they fired 300 back office people. Jim Miller, who wrote the books on ESPN, sent a tweet saying there's one common denominator about these 300 layoffs: white men. And so, like, those weren't like millennials getting laid off. Those were people in their 40s and 50s who gave their lives to ESPN. I know you got swept out in a later round,
Well,
but
I finally some damn disagreement between us. There's been too much agreeing right here, but finally we've got a point of contention. What's odd, and I did not know this when I was fired / laid off in very strange circumstances that perhaps don't have much to do with that article. But John Skipper, the CEO at the time of my layoff, recently was on a podcast, the podcast he does with David Sampson.
yeah.
And he was talking about how they do those layoffs, because I never really thought much about the process of it and how it happens. And I did not know this. But one thing that he was worried about when doing the at-scale layoffs was anti-discrimination law protecting old people. I did not know that. I didn't know that that's a concern for CEOs when doing these firings, because to me, I didn't think of old people as a protected class. I didn't think about, we don't have a discourse about that. We don't have a discourse about how you can't fire people due to being older. And in many ways, that seems irrational because young people are just better at certain things than old people are. And in a lot of industries, it's out with the old, in with the young. But that was a massive consideration for John Skipper. So I think this was not mentioned in the article, but that might be a regulatory influence on why this perhaps disproportionately impacted the millennial cohort, that old people are a little bit protected in employment law. I had no idea until recently.
Well, yeah, so that is like an interesting point. I guess like my thing on this is like, yeah, there were times where I like felt like really down and felt like I was like getting unfairly held back from opportunity or whatever. But Charlie Munger like gave a quote like, okay, even if you like are a victim, like what good does like feeling one do? Like you gotta kind of just fight through it and create something yourself. And like maybe it's like a blessing that you can't rise through these like quote unquote prestigious institutions. And like look, could anything better have happened for your last 5 years for your like professional and personal life than losing that ESPN job and building your own subscription base and now you're your own boss?
Well, I know you got to go soon. I would say what you are saying is completely true on a personal level. There is no profit in being bitter or resentful or having an external locus of control versus an internal locus of control. That's true on the personal level. I will say that I do think these practices, that fashion of the 2020 era and leading up to it, hurt those institutions. I think when you have a lot of pressure on not just hiring whoever you think should do the job or can do the job, but instead on these other considerations, the margin between success and failure in media is so thin that you end up failing when the mandate is not just to do the best job you can do. I think it's just led to an enshittification, if you will, in a lot of these institutions. And I believe that is our show. As much as I'd like to do a little
Yeah,
overtime.
I wish we could do our Stugatz thing next time, maybe.
Next time, man. But wonderful job as always. Check out Ryan's work at Front Office Sports. Is there anything else before you run away to do yet more great reporting, Ryan?
No.
Okay.
Bet on Anthony Joshua tonight.
Oh yeah, gonna do that and gonna do this. You know,
Look, people don't like laying like minus 800 odds, but if you own a stock and it goes up 12.5% every year, that's like a really nice compounding interest gain. This is a minus 800 thing that should be priced at like minus 4,000. You want to be on the side of the sports books here. You don't want to be on the side of the public who thinks that like Jake Paul is actually going to land some magical punch on him.
look at you talking stocks, compound interest. This is why people rub their hands together and do the meme. This guy
Good job
right
by
here.
you.
Yeah, good job by you. See you, everybody.
Later, guys.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. See ya.